It was a peaceful autumn morning, with the timid sun gently warming Donna Clara's porch. At 67 years old, she sat in her rocking chair, holding a steaming cup of coffee, watching golden leaves fall in the yard. The aroma of coffee mingled with the scent of damp earth, and the silence was broken only by the song of a thrush. This was her sacred hour, the moment when she connected with her memories, her reflections, and above all, her faith. For Clara, life after 50 had become a journey of rediscovery, a balance between the past that shaped who she was and the promises of a future filled with hope. Clara always believed that life was like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, but always flowing towards something greater. As a young woman, she dreamed of grand adventures, world travels, and a brilliant career. But life, as it often does, charted other paths. She married João, a man with a generous heart, and together they built a family with 3 children. The house, once filled with children's laughter and hurried footsteps, was now quieter. The children had grown, started their own families, and the grandchildren, oh, the grandchildren, were the light that brightened her days. Memories of the past, the strength of roots. Clara closed her eyes and let her memories take her back to her childhood. She grew up in a small town in the interior of Minas Gerais, where life was simple but full of meaning. She remembered afternoons running through the fields with her cousins, stories told by her grandmother by candlelight, and Sunday masses when the community gathered to share faith and affection. Her grandmother, Donna Maria, was a woman of unshakable faith who taught that God never abandons those who trust in Him. Those words became Clara's foundation, especially in the hardest moments. There were times when life tested that faith. When João fell ill 10 years ago, Clara faced nights of anguish praying by her husband's bedside. The uncertainty about the future consumed her, but she clung to the promise that she was not alone. João recovered, but the experience left its marks. Clara learned that health, both of body and soul, is a fragile gift that must be nurtured with gratitude and care. Now she made a point to walk every morning, take her medications diligently, and above all nourish her soul with moments of silence and prayer. Her memories also brought back her children. Clara smiled as she recalled the mischief of Pedro, the youngest, who once hid the neighbor's cat in the attic, or Mariana's dance performances, the middle child, which filled the house with pride. But not everything was laughter. There were moments of worry, like when Lucas, the eldest, drifted away from the family for a time, seeking his own path. Clara suffered in silence but never stopped praying for him. Today, Lucas was back, more mature, and their relationship was stronger than ever. For Clara, this was proof that time and faith could heal even the deepest wounds. Clara also remembered the financial challenges they faced. There were years when the budget was tight, and she and João had to juggle to pay the bills and provide the basics for their children. In those moments, Clara turned to her faith, believing that God would provide. And somehow He always did, whether through extra work for João, unexpected help from a relative, or a promotion at Clara's job as a secretary at a school. Those experiences taught her to value every cent and never lose hope, even when the future seemed uncertain. Everyday stories, the joy of grandchildren and home. Her grandchildren were Clara's greatest treasure. On weekends, the house came alive again with the voices of Sofia, 8 years old, and Miguel, 5. They loved exploring the yard where Clara planted hydrangeas and a small garden with basil, cherry tomatoes, and cilantro. Sofia, curious like her grandmother, asked 1,000 questions. "Grandma, why do flowers have different colors? Did God choose them that way?" Clara laughed and answered patiently, telling stories about the creation of the world and the beauty God scattered across the earth. Miguel, on the other hand, preferred chasing butterflies or digging holes in the dirt, always returning with dirty hands and a mischievous smile. Taking care of the house was also a source of joy. Clara liked to keep everything in order, but without rigidity. The living room, with its antique furniture and framed photos, told the family's story. Every object held meaning. The wall clock, a wedding gift. The crocheted blanket, made by her mother, and the piano where Mariana used to play as a child. For Clara, the house was not just a place but a sanctuary of memories and love. She loved cooking for the family, and the smell of freshly baked cheese bread or cornmeal cake always drew the grandchildren to the kitchen. Health, however, required constant care. Clara dealt with joint pain and sometimes felt the weight of age, but she didn't let it get her down. She joined a water aerobics group in town where she met friends her age. Together they laughed, shared stories, and supported each other. Age brings wrinkles, but also wisdom, Clara said with a twinkle in her eye. She believed that caring for the body was a way to honor the gift God gave her, and caring for the soul was what kept her alive. Clara also cherished the small daily routines. She enjoyed waking up early, preparing breakfast for João and sitting with him to talk about the day's plans. Sometimes they reminisced about old stories, laughing at moments that seemed so distant yet so vivid in their memories. Other times they planned small home improvements like painting the fence or buying a new curtain for the living room. For Clara, these moments were precious, reinforcing the love that had united them for over 40 years. Reflections. The faith that sustains. For Clara, faith was like an anchor. Inspired by her grandmother's words and God's promises, she found strength to face challenges. Every morning before the day began, Clara sat with her Bible and a notebook, where she jotted down verses and reflections. "Lord, guide my steps and light my path," was her daily prayer. She believed that God was always by her side, not as a distant judge but as a loving friend, ready to listen to her joys and pains. Faith also helped her deal with the uncertainties of the future. Clara knew that life after 50 brought difficult questions. How much time do I have left? What will old age be like? Will my children and grandchildren be okay? But instead of letting fear take over, she chose to trust. Inspired by a text she once heard about the blessings God promises to those who believe, Clara felt that her life still had purpose. She wanted to be an example for her grandchildren, showing that age is not a limit but an opportunity to live with gratitude and love. Clara also reflected on forgiveness. Throughout her life there had been hurts, harsh words, misunderstandings, moments of distance, but she learned that holding on to resentment only poisons the heart. When Lucas drifted away, Clara could have closed herself off in bitterness, but she chose to pray and keep the door open. That act of love brought her son back. For Clara, forgiving was like breaking a chain. It freed not only the other person but also herself. Another constant reflection was about time. Clara noticed that, with age, the days seemed to pass more quickly. She wondered if she had made the most of every moment, if she had said "I love you" enough, if she had lived with courage. These reflections led her to make small changes. She started calling friends more often, writing letters to her children, and dedicating time to hobbies she had previously neglected, like painting watercolors. Life is short, but it can be profound, she thought. Promises and hopes, the future with faith. Looking to the future, Clara dreamed of days filled with small joys. She wanted to watch her grandchildren grow, perhaps travel with João to a peaceful place like Serra da Canastra, where they could walk among waterfalls and breathe fresh air. She dreamed of writing a memoir, not for fame, but to leave a legacy for her family. "I want my grandchildren to know where they came from and what we believe in," she said. Clara also had spiritual promises. She believed that God still had plans for her, even in her later years. Inspired by the idea that nothing is impossible for God, she felt called to share her faith with others. In her water aerobics group, in conversations with neighbors, or even on social media, where she posted messages of hope, Clara wanted to be a light. "If I can help one person find peace, it will have been worth it," she thought. Clara's hope also extended to her family. She prayed that her children would find balance in their busy lives and that her grandchildren would grow up with strong values. She knew she couldn't control the future, but she trusted that by surrendering her worries to God, everything would align in due time. God cares for the lilies of the field and the birds of the sky. Why wouldn't He care for us, she reflected, recalling the words of the gospel. Clara also dreamed of getting more involved with the community. She thought about organizing a Bible reading group at church, or even a gardening club, where she could teach younger people to care for the earth. She believed that sharing knowledge and love was a way to make the world a little better. No matter the age, there's always something to offer, she told herself. A call to gratitude. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Clara finished her coffee and opened her Bible. The verse of the day spoke of gratitude. "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will." She smiled, feeling her heart warmed. Life wasn't perfect. There were pains, longings, and challenges, but there was also love, precious memories, and the promise of a God who never abandoned her. Clara rose from her chair, ready to start the day. She knew that at 67 there was still much to live for. Each sunrise was a new chance to love, forgive, and dream, and above all, It was an opportunity to connect with the divine, to hear the gentle voice that guided her and reminded her, "You are loved. You are enough. I am with you." For Clara and for so many others over 50, life was an invitation to embrace the past with affection, live the present with gratitude, and look to the future with hope. It was a path of faith, paved with memories and illuminated by promises. And on that path she walked lightly, knowing she was never alone. Life as a garden, Clara liked to compare life to a garden. Each phase, childhood, youth, maturity, was like a season. In childhood, we plant the seeds of curiosity and dreams. In youth, we water those seeds with passion and energy, even facing storms. In maturity, we harvest the fruits, but also learn to care for the soil, prune what no longer serves, and plant new seeds for the future. At 67, Clara felt her garden was flourishing, but there was still room for new flowers. She thought of the challenges she faced as part of that cultivation: João's illness, worries about her children, sleepless nights thinking about the future. All of it was like the strong wind that shakes the trees but doesn't topple them. Clara learned that faith was the root that kept her steady, and love, the sun that made her grow. A garden isn't perfect, but it's alive, she thought, and for her, living was exactly that, accepting imperfections, celebrating beauties, and trusting that the heavenly gardener took care of everything. The power of small things. Clara also reflected on the importance of small things. A smile from Miguel, a conversation with a friend, the smell of rain in the yard. These simple moments were the ones that warmed her heart the most. She had learned over the years that happiness wasn't in grand achievements, but in the moments that often go unnoticed. God speaks in the small things, she said, remembering how a blooming flower or an old song on the radio could bring inexplicable peace. This appreciation for small things led her to create new habits. Clara started keeping a gratitude journal where every night she wrote down 3 good things from the day. Sometimes they were big moments like the birth of a new grandchild. Other times they were simple, like the taste of an orange picked from the yard. This practice helped her see life with more lightness, even on tough days. When we give thanks, the heart feels lighter, she said. Clara's legacy. Clara knew her greatest mission was to leave a legacy, not of material possessions, but of values, stories, and faith. She wanted her grandchildren to grow up knowing that life has ups and downs, but trust in God and love for family are unshakable. So she told stories, taught recipes, sang old hymns, and above all, prayed for them. "My grandmother taught me to pray, and I want to pass that on," she said. She also thought about her legacy for the community. Clara was active in her church, helping organize events and collect food for families in need. She felt that by doing good, she was fulfilling a greater calling. "It's not about what I receive, but what I give," she reflected. And in that giving, she found purpose, a future of light. Looking at the horizon, Clara felt a mix of peace and anticipation. She knew old age would bring new challenges, perhaps more pain, perhaps goodbyes, but she also knew that each day was an opportunity to live fully. She wanted to learn something new, perhaps improve her watercolor painting or take a photography course. She wanted to travel with João, even if just to a nearby town, and savor every moment by his side. Above all, Clara wanted to continue being a witness to God's goodness. She believed that her life, with all its joys and scars, was a living testament to the transformative power of faith. If I can inspire one person to believe, to forgive, to love, then my life will have been worth it, she thought. As the sun set, Clara lit a candle in the living room and sat to pray. The flickering flame seemed to dance, as if responding to her prayers. She closed her eyes and gave thanks for her family, her home, her health, her memories, and the promises yet to come. "Lord, may my life be a reflection of your love," she whispered. And so Clara continued her journey, her heart full of gratitude and her eyes turned to the heavens. At 67, she knew that life was a gift, and each day a new page to be written with faith, love, and hope.